my name is Tidi Madia and welcome to News 24. This is part of our election coverage. We've been bringing you coverage from here. I am at the IEC's Rock Center. That's the Results Operations Center, where we bring you again live coverage of what's happening. So you've got politicians, you've got the numbers that you can see at the far back there. We're trying to tell you the South African story to see where do South Africans want the country to go? Who do they want to see in charge and leading us towards, I'm not sure if it's a promised land, but to a better future at least. I'm currently speaking to one of those many political figures who are featured on the board right now. Patricia de Lille joins me now. She's the leader of Good. You've been in existence for 5 months.
Yes.
And I saw not too long ago you've made it to Parliament. The first seat is solidly there. Congratulations. How does that feel? How does that feel at a time where smaller parties are struggling, but Good knows for a fact that, look, we're already in?
I must first of all say thank you to all the voters that have expressed the confidence and that have voted for us. For me, every single vote that we receive is a victory. If we receive some seats, it's a victory for us because we've only started 5 months ago.
Yeah.
But, that's the beauty of our multi-party democracy. Multi-party democracy is about contestation of ideas. And we came with the idea, put it to the electorate, that we want to mobilize good people, that want to see a good country. Good people are not racist, that we must now do something to fix our country and produce a plan. Because also if good people don't do anything, then that is why all the wrong things happen. And I must say that message resonated with many people across the country. And so now we've come at the end of the campaign. This is just the basis of the foundation for going forward to the 2021 elections.
Tell me, Auntie Pat, how important is the role of leadership? Because I don't believe that without you, Good would have actually gotten this far. This is a feat. Whether you agree with Good's policies or ideas or you don't understand them, you've got to give praise to the fact that this is a feat. Smaller parties, again, who started long before you, are still, some can't even make it to 10,000 votes. Is it a lot about the leadership that's guiding the ship, or is it about the people that you worked with and what they're doing on the ground?
Well, it is certainly an issue of two brands, the Patricia de Lille brand and the Good brand, but what we use it tactically to leverage the one of the other. And that's why we've been able to make lots of inroads, because it's also about, credibility, but people also want to see passion. And one of the things that inspired me every morning when I got out to go and campaign was to say we also need to deal with this toxic masculinity of just having all male leaders. Look at that board there. You can go from the top down, it's all of those ugly faces, and then you get to the first woman, and that's me. Now, we don't just want to see more women representation in Parliament. We don't just want to see more dresses in Parliament. We want to see women in leadership. And South Africa's political scenario is very, very male-dominated. So I'm going there. I'm not afraid of any one of them.
I don't think you are.
They will not be intimidating me. I will help them to shift the boys from the men, and then do it for women, because women can do it.
Tell me where we went wrong. We were looking at a 1994 ballot paper from the elections in 1994, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And when we looked at it, was amazed at the amount of females who featured on that ballot paper.
Yeah.
Where did we go wrong to a point where we pretty much have you and we have women forward? And that's kind of it. Where did we go wrong as a country as far as women representation and leadership as far as political parties are concerned?
But I think we need to look ourselves as women too.
Okay, sure.
For you to get elected into a position, first of all, you must put yourself forward. And then you have to play by the rules of the game. In politics, you don't have rules for women or rules for men. They are just the rules. And you just need to get in there and play by those rules. And we need to encourage more women. That's why you need more role models. Encourage more women to come forward. And I think there are lots of young ones now that are ready to do it.
I want to speak a little bit more about the election results that we're seeing. I think it's just under 60% right now, around 60% that have been counted so far. I want to speak about your former political party, because some in the DA want to put some blame on you, apportion some blame on you for what happened, saying, one, you muddied their name when there was a back and forth battle between the DA and Patricia de Lille when you're still a member. Two, they think you took some people. Initially, they said you wouldn't make a dent, but some are now saying, actually, Patricia has damaged us slightly or to some extent. What do you make of those kind of claims?
I always say, God forgive the fools because they don't know what they are saying or doing. They must not just leave me alone.
Yes.
And have some introspection. Look to themselves first. It is not me. I've become the victim of abuse. And so the abuser, you cannot rehabilitate the abuser. That's why they're still going on with it. And they need to go and find out. I put an idea forward to the elected with a plan, not necessarily targeting to get DA voters, but targeting good South Africans to come out there and vote. I really don't care about them anymore. I'm busy designing the new phase of my, next phase of my life. And I want to be positive. I love this country. I want to build this country. While they are trying to pull us down, it's all, you could never hear. That's why I said they need introspection. It was always how bad is the ANC, how bad is this one, how bad is... You could never hear what they are going to do for the country. So no, they mustn't blame me. I'm not there anymore. Thanks God.
Baby. Auntie Pat, let's speak about some of the issues that have risen from these particular elections. The IEC finds itself in a very tricky position with a lot of the small parties not even asking for an audit. Some want a full audit, though the IEC proposed a sample audit, and others want a complete rerun. Where do you stand in this argument?
Part of the problem that I picked up here from the... Now, they were already branding me the biggest of the small parties, whatever they're supposed to do. That some of the small parties are not happy because they have got their votes, because you get your votes that the party agents sign off immediately after the elections. But it's just the change in figures seem only to happen with the bigger parties. But I think the IEC has dealt with that one now. The one in terms of this indelible ink.
Yes.
We had a meeting with the IEC at earlier this afternoon, and the IEC committed themselves to investigate. They've already laid charges against some of the people, and that they will come back to us before Saturday. They've also committed themselves to do an audit, a random audit, and I thought all political parties agreed to it. Because such a big operation, you'll never find a perfect election anywhere.
Yes.
But for me, what is important is that will these allegations, will it materially affect the outcome of the elections? Because you can see the trend there on the board. And if that trend must just switch like that because of these allegations, then we must be of concern. But I trust the IEC will investigate and come back to us. They've been very open and transparent.
I think they have been for the most part. Do you also think, though, that there's a need by the IEC to pause and also introspect on how it's been doing, going about its business? I mean, it's one of those institutions that's never had its credibility questioned since 1994.
Yes.
Does this call for time for the IEC to pause and look at how it does things? I mean, some can even complain that the Concord issues from 2016 still have not been fully dealt with. Our voters' roll does not have the address. It's not actually compliant with the constitution of the country as we speak still.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. If you use the same old business plan, you get to the same results. They need to change the methodology of planning, and I think we need to overlay a lot of our decisions with digital and with technology, because that's where the rest of the world is going. So the IEC must really also take stock after this. You can't continue to operate the way they've been operating. But the credibility for this current election result will now become in question. And that's why it's a test for them to show how they're going to find a solution.
I was looking at your thumb. I don't know if you can see my indelible mark. It's
Yes.
slightly there. I voted on Monday. I voted a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I saw yours is quite clear. There was this issue because you and I have nail polish. That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
Yes.
Did you have an issue about marking your nails? Because I didn't. I was quite taken aback when I started hearing people saying they were being told to scrap off their nail polish. And I was like, I've never
No,
experienced
it's
such a
not.
thing. Have you heard of anything like that?
No, 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 no. I just asked them to make mine that way instead of over the nail
Oh.
polish, and they listened to
There
me.
was no issue.
No issue.
It's a very strange. It's a 2019 is a strange year, strange election with
Yeah.
many strange outcomes. Thank you for chatting to us. But I also want to
Thank
chat
you,
to you
Tizzy.
about, before I let you go, I want to chat to you about the role, in Parliament, because now that's a definite. What is it that you're going to seek to do differently from all your previous roles? Because you've been there before a number of times. They call you a political chameleon in some circles. You reinvent yourself. What is the role now in the sixth administration for Patricia de Lille and for good in the National Assembly?
We've already started by putting up a corruption desk. I've so far received 5 emails with corruption complaints.
That's very quick.
I've got another 4 from different municipalities across the country. And so we're going to focus on that and exposing corruption. The second issue that I'm passionate about is spatial integration. I feel that all of us collectively failed to deal with the apartheid spatial planning. And I will certainly be pushing integration in all the towns and cities across our country. I will go to them and illustrate how we've continued with apartheid spatial planning. And then agitate for land to be released, because public land must be used for public good. So those are 2 of my priorities. And then on the other hand is the one about women. Feminization of poverty. Poverty's got a face. It's a woman of color. It's a black woman. But even when women are working, they are not getting equal pay for equal work. And that's also going to be part of my drive to take that on. Because we must break the cycle of poverty. If the mother was poor, then the daughter will be poor. And to me,
It just isn't working. We kind of have a vicious cycle.
it's a cycle. It's a cycle, but the solution is education, education, education.
I think many South Africans agree with you, and that's why I'm going to leave it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's the leader of Good, Patricia de Lille, who stopped by at the News 24 studio here at the Rock, the IC's Rock Center. We're quickly going to cross to the floor, but when we come back, we'll chat to Ronald Lamola from the ANC, NWC member, NEC member. We'll catch up with him a little bit later. Welcome back to News 24. My name is Tidi Madia. We are coming live to you from The Rock, the IEC's Results Operations Center here in Pretoria. Joining me at the moment is Ronald Lamola from the ANC. The conversation we are having is part of the many conversations we've been bringing you from the IEC's Rock Center with many politicians, also assessing the numbers on the board and trying to understand what is the way forward for Project South Africa, Project Democracy specifically in South Africa. As I said, I'm joined now by Ronald Lamola. Ronald, thank you so much for coming to our cozy little studio here at the top of the Rock Center.
Thank you very much. At least you've been squatted by the IEC.
We're always grateful to be squatted.
Campus, that's what we used to call it.
Yeah. So you're an ANC member, you're an ANC National Executive Committee member, you're a National Working Committee member, but the other responsibility you bear is being a young ANC member with a lot of expectations being placed on your shoulders, particularly in an era where young voters are so important. When you reflect on the period leading up to the elections, are you proud of the kind of work that the ANC's young people did, or even the ANC across the board, to rally in young people?
I think given the challenges, the ANC thank all South Africans for the support they've given to us. I think they've been very forgiving to us. There have been challenges upcoming here in government, which we have accepted, the mistakes. And I think they've given us a clear mandate in terms of our path of renewal, to deal with the issues of unemployment for the youth, the growing of the economy, and the issues of corruption. And I think that is the path we need to stick to and comply to that, because that's what we're committed in the manifesto. And during the campaigns, young people of the ANC have been there, have been robust, and that's why you saw us winning some of the campuses. But I think we need to do more in terms of ensuring that in the structures and in the various places, but also reviving and ensuring that the Youth League has got a mandate which it carries and renew its mandate for it to be able to be a motive force that can be able to galvanize many youth of this country who are energetic, who have got fresh and creative ideas of how to renew the ANC. And the ANC has no choice, because the society is becoming younger, and for the ANC to renew itself 25 years into democracy is to infuse more young people within the structures.
I'm going to come back to the issue of the ANC Youth League, because that does need a lot of discussion. It is a cause for concern, I think, not for the league alone or young people alone, but also for the mother body, and also South Africans looking at the ANC's history and wondering what happens with the league. But the board there at the back has been showing a bit of a fluctuation, so you're moving between 55% and 57%. Your personal view on that percentage, on that score, do you think you could have done better? Is it the best that you could do under the conditions?
Yeah, I think under the conditions, the weather, the turnout, it's a fair
The state
outcome.
of the ANC?
It's a fair outcome of the results, and we have said it during the campaign. We are looking for a decisive victory, and a decisive victory will enable us to form government, will enable us to put the policies that we want to put in reconstruction of society, will also enable us to execute certain and many tasks that a government can do. And that's, for us, given the current circumstances, is enough, and will enable us to work and execute our tasks without blinking and with a decisive action. As we have said, is the path of renewal that the president has been speaking about.
That's kind of why you are here, actually, because a lot of the hopes pinned on your shoulders are what happens in the sixth administration. You are high up on the ANC's candidate list, one that's been questioned by many people on many levels. What are the tasks in your head when you go to Parliament? Because now, no matter what happens, you're a shoo-in, you go into Parliament. What are the big things that you think, even as a young person or even as an ANC member, you can do to influence Parliament towards doing something that's more palatable to South Africans?
I think we need to look into the processes of making the laws. That is taking too long, because it also slows service delivery. But we also have to ensure that whoever is in the executive is able to stick to what the policies that we expect them to happen in terms of resolving the various issues of the country. Basic service delivery, which has been an issue throughout our campaign, anywhere you go throughout the country. Service delivery issues, basic issues of refusal removals have been raised. And it's clear we have to hold everyone accountable. And even the issues of youth unemployment is a real big issue. which the parliament has to look into and tackle and ensure that the state is opened up to enable the creation of jobs to resolve the various issues of inequality in our country.
How do we counter that? We're coming into a new year. We're not too far from coming to a new administration. How do we counter that? Our economy does remain sluggish. How do we stimulate it and start creating the necessary jobs for young people?
Obviously, from the manifesto, it's very clear that for us
It actually isn't, which is why I'm asking.
It's clear from the manifesto what we have to do in terms of unlocking the economic potential of the various areas, the township economy, the rural areas, because most of the migration into the urban areas has been mostly influenced by big head offices of corporate parks. So the migration in many parts of the country must at least be influenced by manufacturing, influenced by production. So that's what we're going to unlock through the manifesto. At the end, we must be able to open it up for new entrants, small businesses, and open it up and that's why we have put together the Competition Amendment Act, which will enable us to deal with the monopolies, which blocks the entrance of new entrants and new players into the various sectors of the economy.
You kind of now explained some little bits of what I was looking for, around manufacturing. I want to move on to the issue of land. I don't have too much time, so I want to touch on very quickly on a lot of things. The issue of land, I know you're part of the people who've been dealing with the issue of land quite intensively. There's a big question around the land issue, with people saying that it was expected that it would become a big issue in the lead up to the elections. It actually wasn't, because I felt people have stuck out their colors and been very specific. But the other issue that South Africans have had is that actually there's no move. There's a lot of talk around it, but there is no move. And while the ANC and the EFF agree to some extent that yes, land must be, the constitution must be expropriated, at least that's what Cyril Ramaphosa last said to us, there is no quick move. And there's also a difference where one party wants it nationalized completely and the other doesn't necessarily want that. How do you then see that being overcome quickly?
It always shocked me when people say there's no move. The president in the last 1 year,
it's hanging, and that's going to become an issue for the sixth administration. There's no move.
If you allow me to respond, the president in the past one year has given more than 2,000 hectares of land in the various communities. He started in KZN, he did here in Tshwane. We have published.
But we haven't amended the constitution. We're waiting for that.
We have published the expropriation bill, which put together how land can be expropriated in certain circumstances without compensation. So I don't know what kind of move you're waiting for.
We wanted it done in the fifth administration, Ronald.
And you attended our land summit.
I did.
Attended. We have said it's going to be a multi-pronged approach. The first one is that we're an incumbent, we're a government. Government need to deliver the land, which the president did. He given many communities across the country, which you saw. The second thing was that we are going to put together the expropriation bill, which we did. The third thing is the process of amending the constitution, which is not in our hands. It's in parliament. It's a process which has to follow due process. Even if we want to do it in one day, it will be impossible, it will be challenged. So we have to follow due process to ensure that that process goes smoothly. But we have said that does not suspend the work of government, the work of the ANC delivering on the mandate of the land. And that's what it has
so
been. The Department of Rural Development has been giving land through a rapid land release program. The Gauteng government has done the same, has even given some kind of agreement with Wits University to give land to build student accommodation. It's like people are waiting for a whistle to be blown. Now it's doing. No, it is already happening.
That's what you guys promised us. We're waiting for a whistle, but I'll accept that.
No,
so ultimately, you're not saying
there's a whistle. We have said it's a multi-pronged program, and we are going to do it. And I've said to you now, we've already done it.
Okay, so we must just open our eyes. It's not a matter of patience, it's opening our eyes.
No, it's a matter of you refusing to see what is openly there. Because I know you attended some of the handovers of the land by the president.
I've never done that.
In Pretoria,
don't accuse me of things I've never done.
No, I've seen it from your articles of News 24, IOL, and many other news agencies.
I've never. Anyway, let's speak about the youth. We're going to disagree.
The president did a handover in KZN.
But a lot of that felt like politicking. You must also recognize that.
No,
a lot of the handovers is not about what was promised. It's about what looks good, so that you could try and overcome that number, which you haven't done.
It's not politicking. We have been giving title deeds to people for the past 5 years. We were not going to stop it because we were 2 minutes before elections. We are a government. Even tomorrow, we must deliver government services to the people. So we have been doing that, and it was not politicking. We gave them title deeds.
Yeah, we're going to agree to disagree on that one. I'm not going to agree with you.
You can check it from the presidency.
I'm not going to agree with you. I'm not going to agree with you.
No,
I want to speak to you very quickly. I'm almost done. Because I don't agree with you.
We've been giving people the land.
I'm going to move on to the AC.
You know they've been
no, I'm not about David Makura's promises of a program that almost sounds like a renewed program, time and memorial, but it actually isn't. That I'm well aware of, but it's promises mostly.
No, but yes,
I said it's promises mostly. It's a state of the province address. For the most part, it's a state of the province address. Ronald Lamola, stop this because we're not going to agree.
You don't want to attend where we deliver service. You only want where you are criticizing. When we invite you to show you, you don't come. But it has been done.
It's simply not true. And even in my work, you can see that it's not true.
You can check it
but
from the
Ronald, let's speak about the ANC Youth League very quickly.
Let's
speak about the ANC Youth League quickly. It's been in a dismal state for a very long time. What can be done to rescue the ANC Youth League going forward?
Yeah, the Youth League, we are helping it to go to its Congress. And we are of the view that a lot of young, dynamic young people of the ANC are going to come up. Because when you go out throughout the country, in the townships, in the rural areas, in universities, in schools, you get very vibrant young people of the ANC who just wants a proper coordination. And I think that can be harnessed. You will have seen from the Fees Must Fall movement, majority of them were there. They've also been there recently when students were fighting many issues of exclusion, COSAS, and so forth. They need a home where all these energies can be properly directed, which we are helping them to convene their Congress. Hopefully, it's going to happen soon.
Can it restore itself back to its former glory? I mean, the Youth League was once a force. You were part of it at some point where it was a mighty force with a strong voice in the ANC and that wanted its independence respected through and through. Can it go anywhere back to anything like that previously? Or must it be controlled so that it can move in a particular direction?
Yeah, anything is possible with young people. They've got unlimited potential which just needs to be unlocked. And that is what we are going to help them to unlock their full potential and give them space to learn from the experiments of their own activities. And that's why the Youth League needs to be autonomous. It does not need to be managed and controlled by us. It needs to be run by them so that out of their own experience, they learn how to manage, but also they also engage on knowing that we are now in a knowledge revolution. We also expect that young people must be able to go to school. They must proceed with other activities that will enhance their knowledge. So that is the process which we are going to help them with, for them to convene the conference so that their potential and creativity is unlocked for the benefit of the ANC and society as a whole.
All right, I have run out of time. I'm going to leave it at that with Ronald. I will not agree with Ronald on land, but that's just how I feel. But I want to say good night to you. Thank you, Ronald.
Just go to the president's website.
Thank you, Ronald. Your time is up. Thank you so much, Ronald. My name is for News 24. My name is Tidi Madi, and as I leave you, I'm going to take you back to the floor where Mmusi Maimane was here earlier, kind of speaking about his views on the DA's performance, coalition politics, and of course about the calls for either a rerun or for an audit of what's happened in the country on election day. Again, for News 24, my name is Tidi Madia, and we're out.
No, look, what I think is important to note is the fact that when I set out as leader of the DA, I went out to say we want to build one South Africa for all, we want to build a party that works for all South Africans. And I think many of them have come through in a very complicated election if you look at how it's worked out. And we're comfortable. We're building a diverse organization. Black South Africans have come to vote for the DA, white South Africans have voted for the DA. So I'm quite content with where we are at the moment as a party. We've built a very strong foundation. And especially young voters have come out and the support for the DA has been very strong. So I'm quite comfortable with where it's at.
On the current trends, you're actually going to get fewer votes in Gauteng in this election than you did in 2014.
Look, I mean, the Gauteng election is still not finalized yet. I'm looking at the projections and see how we're going to go. We're comfortable with where we govern. We ran a very strong campaign here. So I'm looking forward to the final results when they come out. I'll be back here tomorrow as soon as I get more VDs coming in from Gauteng to get an understanding as to what happened in Joburg and all of that. But from our current indicators, one of the things that are always important for me to look out for is that when we went out to campaign to want to build one South Africa for all, I wanted to monitor to make sure that black South Africans, white South Africans, Indian South Africans, colored South Africans came out to vote. And I think we've been able to achieve that. We're the only party that is representative of that in an election where in many ways there's been a contestation of different types of nationalism that have occurred. So we're very comfortable that we can offer that vision to all South Africans.
You have seen the smaller parties, they've made a call for the elections to be rerun. You support an audit, you've just said. You're not supporting a rerun at this stage?
Not at this stage. We've got to get an audit so that we know the extent. And the question about how material, the issues of ink not working properly, how when people came to cast their votes, actually they could vote twice. So let that audit take place. Because ultimately it's in the interest of every party, whether small or big, that you want to make sure that the elections were free and fair, which is crucial. So we'll be monitoring that particular situation. No, look, what I think is important to note is the fact that
We are back at the Rock. This is News 24 live from the National Election Centre in Pretoria. It is Thursday, the 9th of May, the big day of election results, the day after, and it is almost 8 p.m. Gentlemen, good evening. This was a big day. I'm joined tonight by Pieter de Tooy, Assistant Editor for News 24's in-depth content, and Ralph Matega, our resident political analyst and author of the book Ramaphosa's Turn, Can Cyril Save South Africa? Gentlemen, before we start, let's have a look at the national elections behind us. We now have the results of 61.4% of the national vote. It is in. That is almost 9.5 million of your votes. The ANC is still far in the lead with 5.3 million, followed by the DA on 2.1 million, and the EFF edging at 1,923,000. They will get over the million mark. In the 2014 election, they ended on 1.1 million, so they're getting close to their biggest and best performance ever. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. This is a wrap. I want us to talk about the big stories of the day, the biggest winners and the biggest losers. Pieter de Tooy, starting with you, biggest winner of the day.
Surely, that's a good question. Look, Adrian, the biggest winner of the day, it's a trend that's emerged. The Freedom Front Plus has taken away a lot of votes, it seems, from the Democratic Alliance. Our analyst Davy Scholes tells us that they lost a lot of votes among the white electorate, and especially Gauteng, which is very interesting. The EFF is a big winner as well. It might end up 30% more than it did last time around. So I would guess those were the biggest winners of the day.
Pieter has mentioned the Freedom Front Plus. Of course, they are the big surprise package of this election, and they're currently standing on almost 250,000 votes. Now, Pieter, in 2014, they got 165,000 votes in total.
Yes.
They're already on 250
yes.
and counting. Davy Scholes tells me, Davy Scholes tells me they may edge 500,000, 500,000 votes.
Adrian, the significance of that is that it will be north of what they got in 1994. In 1994, they got around 450,000 votes. If they edge north of that, that means, remember in 1994, the zeitgeist was totally different amongst their voters. It was a time of white fear, white angst, the communists are coming, and they got their votes on the back of fear. Are they going to do it again? It seems like it. So there's a story to be told what happened amongst the white voters, why they left the DA. This evening, when we were on the floor, I spoke to Athol Trollip, the DA's federal chairperson, and when I told him, what happened here, you're going to lose around 350,000 white votes, he got quite aggressive, saying, why don't we focus on the ANC? Well, Mr. Trollip and the DA, it's quite a large chunk of white voters that you lost, and you can't ignore it.
Very interesting. Ralph Matega, Pieter has taken the FF Plus and the EFF as his biggest winners of the day. Who's your biggest winner of the day, if you can't choose those two?
I think this election, goodness sake, for goodness sake, that is the good party. I think they've done a little bit okay. They've come out very well. in the Western Cape, and the Freedom Front Plus, I agree with you. And other than that, I really believe that this is the election where disappointment has been equitably distributed across all main political parties. I see the ANC being disappointed, the EFF seems to be disappointed with the growth prospect, and the DA, of course. But the ANC, I would say, they should be less disappointed. I mean, I spoke to a senior prominent ANC members who might or may have not have shown up here, may or may have not sat here, may or may have not. And you know what is his word or her word? South Africans are forgiving. Probably that is the thinking within the ANC as well. Because if you look at this election for the ANC, it's been a maintenance election for the ANC, some kind of an attempt to recover. And I think they did not expect a prospect, they did not have good prospect of growth. As for the EFF, as for the DA, I think they are very much disappointed. Of course, at the bottom, small parties, I hear they don't want to be referred to as small parties. Parties that are your one percenters,
new parties, startups,
newbies.
You're gonna be in trouble for that. They want to be referred to as great potential parties, if you like. Yeah. But I think they did not show very well. Some have been rejected at the bottom. I mean, Adrian, these are mediocre election in terms of performance of political parties. It's you ask yourself, what is the big message of this election? The big message of this election is actually South Africans rejecting what has been proposed by parties going into this election, the manifestos, what they've put out there. I think South Africans were just not convinced by the rhetoric. Parties spent a lot of time talking among themselves. Yeah. Let them share this disappointment and go back to the drawing board and start thinking about how to talk to people.
And if you look at the voter turnout, Adrian and Ralph, it seems like it's going to be in the region of 64%. That's very, very low. And that's, staying away from the polls is a political act in itself. It sends a message to the parties, we're not happy, we'd rather stay away.
Exactly.
Rolf, it's quite remarkable though, and I agree with you that the ANC should actually be a big winner. They should actually be happy tonight, because just a few months ago, the three of us were sitting at Nasrec in Johannesburg, and there was a real chance of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma taking that election as ANC president, and I think there was quite a bit of consensus under us pundits at the time that would be disastrous for the ANC in this election. The ANC may have been under 50% right now if Cyril Ramaphosa didn't win, but he didn't only take them over 50, they're going to end on around 57%. Isn't that a triumph for him?
I mean, he has done very well, but are they going to recognize that? Is the party going to recognize that? Are they going to give him a space to take this party in a different direction? I'm afraid they are not going to credit him very much. Within the ANC, I have not had a lot of I means you are going to acknowledge the person, having them account as well. There's a lot of we. And I think that Mr. Ramaphosa's contribution here will just be lumped into the we. He will not be credited individually. Had they performed too poorly, they will have blamed him.
Can I ask you both, gentlemen, has the ANC now paid their penance for state capture? Have they been punished at the polls? Was the punishment in 2016? Or has the electorate now forgiven them?
Well, I think for me the turnout is one of the big answers to that question. I think it's been a low turnout, and I think a lot of ANC voters, as Ralph has also said today, may have just decided not to vote, and that is the same trend we saw in 2016 when the ANC went under 50% in Tshwane and Johannesburg. They are hovering at around 50 literally on the dot in Gauteng. So I think part of the punishment, as you call it, is probably the non-voting. What I don't see in their results, and please tell me if you don't agree, is a massive sway to another party. Is a massive sway of ANC voters saying we're going to vote for the EFF or the DA. That just didn't happen.
No, I fully agree with you on that one. ANC voters, they have a very interesting pattern on how they disengage with the party. They don't show up. They sit in what I call a transit lounge. I don't know how long they sit. Do they sit for 2 elections? Do they sit for 3 elections? Maybe we need to start talking about the model where we can start maybe looking as to how long does it take for a core ANC voter from not showing up at the polls and going to another party? Can we map that transition, or do they go back? I mean, Adrian, this is very interesting. If the opposition could not make significant inroads into the NC's electoral base, when are they going to do that? If I were part of the opposition, I'll certainly close shop actually in when it comes to some of the strategies. If I were the DA, I'll certainly sit down and say that, look, if I couldn't grow now, when am I going to grow? That's a challenge.
Let's stick to that point, Peter. I'm going to ask you the biggest losers, and I think you're going to say
The Democratic
DA.
Alliance.
Where is the DA tonight? What is Mmusi Maimane? I saw him on the floor earlier with you down there. He was not happy.
He wasn't a happy camper.
We're hearing already murmurings in the party of people saying, well, should he continue as the leader of the party? Should he take the blame for this?
Well, look, the first question you asked where they are tonight, they're very disappointed tonight, in a disappointed place tonight. Yes, they are going to spin it to us to tell us, look, a couple of months ago, people were saying they were going to get 18, maybe even lower than that. They're coming in on 21, 22, might be possibly lower than 22, but they will be disappointed. They've been a party that's been on a growth trajectory since 1994. 12, 16, 22. That's strong growth during every election. They're going to come down lower than they were. Now, what we're hearing from the party is that they might have shed white voters, conservative white voters, and yes, you know, they would argue that they don't need those voters, but there are significant numbers. It's somewhere in the region of 350,000 white voters, which brings them down. They will argue that they might have won among the black electorate, but is that enough to offset the losses? I don't think it is. What we're hearing from the Freedom Front Plus is that they're saying they capitalized on a muddled message from the Democratic Alliance. Yes, maybe it should be the blame should be laid at the feet of Mmusi Maimane. Was there a coherent enough message that could unite people? It doesn't look like it. So they will certainly be disappointed in their performance tonight. There will be ructions in the party. Mmusi Maimane's leadership will be questioned. And there will be some form of insurrection or attempts
and I mean,
to challenge his leadership.
they have to question that the DA is not a church. It's a party which is there to grow. It's meant to grow. If the leader fails to grow the party, what is the solution? It's not an academy for training of leadership. If the leader cannot grow the party, you gotta go. There will be a pressure to say that, hey, look, you can't take us through that. You've got to go. Yeah. There's no chance for the party to babysit you as you're figuring out how to do it. You gotta get going here.
Here's my question to you, Rolf Matega. Why hasn't the DA substantially increased the votes from black voters in South Africa? Especially people living in Johannesburg and Tshwane, where they've been in charge for the past 3 years. Why haven't they managed to crack that?
I think they're struggling when it comes to identity. The biggest challenge that the DA is actually facing, and it's a genuine challenge. They might respond in a sloppy way, but it is a genuine challenge. If you are the DA known as a traditionally white party, and your growth prospect is facing in the direction of attracting the black middle class, the question is, how white do you remain? What does that mean? How do you retain your traditional how do you transform without losing your traditional constituency? That is what they are looking at. If you are going to be black as well, you try to reach out to the black constituency as well. The ANC and the EFF are already doing that. How different and how distinct are you going to be in crafting your message? That is quite genuine, and I think they have to deal with that.
They would argue that of course, if we lose some white votes, but if we grow amongst the black electorate, that's fine. But they didn't grow amongst the black electorate. So they lost white voters, they didn't gain black voters, so you know they're treading water. But Adrian and Ralph, the fact that the DA couldn't grow in an era of state capture, where the ANC is at war with itself, where we've got all these different commissions going on, you know, that's troubling for the DA. It's a relatively easy environment to try and pick up votes. They couldn't do it. There needs questions about their strategy and tactics, if I can use ANC parlance, needs to be asked.
Rolf Matega, there's some other losers as well on this floor behind us. Let me just look at some of them there on the results board. One of them certainly is called the BLF, Black Land First. The other one is called the Purple Cows, or the Capitalist Party. And then we also have Mr. Hlaudi Motsoeneng, 90% local content, the African content movement. Hlaudi Motsoeneng's party now sitting on a paltry 2,000 votes, the BLF on 8,400 votes, and the Capitalist Party, the Purple Cows, on 7,800. They're not going to Parliament. What is this telling us? Are South Africans not in the mood for new kids on the block?
Well, personally, I hope they are not heavily indebted. It costs a lot to run for a politician.
200,000 rand, right?
It cost a lot. It cost a lot, and sometimes maybe they would have placed a bet that says that, look, we will find a payment arrangement once we are in Parliament. We know the financial implications for being in Parliament, but I think what the electorate are actually saying is that, look, you know, we enjoyed listening to you, but I mean, there are just too many of you new entrants. You are not so clear. And I think the problem is that once you test the electorate, like BLF had said it is a kind of an activist, maybe they should have stayed there, because now they come out of this having done badly. Their legitimacy, which was in tatters, is going to be worse in tatters. Now people will be pointing at them, will be saying that you can't even get this amount of vote. They have went out and they tested themselves. I'm afraid they're going to suffer a lot when it comes to how they're being seen. It will be worse for them, how they're being seen out there.
Peter, a party like the Capitalist Party gained a lot of traction on social media. I mean, you and I don't think Ralph walks the perilous streets of Twitter as much, but I mean, they had a lot of people, purple cows, they emoted their avatars, but it didn't convert into real votes. No. I mean, is this a hard lesson also for social media generation, that you actually have to get out of your butt and go and vote? You know?
Well, it does show us that elections aren't won in the Twitter sphere. You know, because if it was, the EFF would govern today.
Julius Malema would be president.
You know, Julius Malema has more Twitter followers than the ANC does. So it's necessary for those guys who, you know, it was a gimmick. They tried something. You know, I don't know if they were very serious about going to Parliament. It was interesting, like Ralph said, to see a number of new players on the market, because I think many of these new entrants thought that the electorate is tight. We know the electorate is tight. We're seeing it in the numbers and the turnout figures. But what it also did show us is that, you know, if you don't have a proven track record, if you don't get out into the field, as it were, you're not going to get anywhere. And we saw the ANC struggling because they had less money this time around.
Yeah.
The DA had lots of money, but they didn't get the numbers that they wanted. For the smaller parties, the capitalists, you know, you can't fight elections in the Twitter world with your less than 10,000.
Well, we've seen bloggers and comedians being elected prime ministers in other countries, but maybe it's not our time yet. Rolf Matega, I want to ask you about some of the other smaller parties. Patricia de Lille, she's got enough votes to go back to Parliament. Do you think she'll play active and a productive role there, or do you think she'll settle for something provincial in the Western Cape?
I think that she will most likely go to national. I think she still needs to deal with the DA. There is still some revenge there that maybe politically, yes. You know, at the national level, imagine her squaring up with Steenhuisen at Parliament and now dealing with that outstanding matter that they still have among them. So I think a good traction that I mean, Patricia, let's be honest, she loves attention, Auntie Pat. Yes. Oh, she loves attention so much. I don't think provincial politics will interest her so much. I don't think,
ego, man.
You know, she's going to go there to national level and she's going to actually ick the DA and irritate the DA. And I think she knows national politics very well. You know, whistleblower, moved from one party to, you know, and she's got her own constituency, it appears.
But now I want to, you know, one of the big debates before the election was, don't waste your vote on a smaller party. Now Patricia will probably go to Parliament, but what is she going to do in Parliament? Is she going to sit on committees? Is she going to do the hard yards? Because she never really has done that. Even when she was ID leader.
You know, I'll tell you, this is a misunderstanding of the proportional representation system. It is designed to have a very low bar of entry. It is actually designed to make sure that Parliament is as inclusive as possible by its nature. What do you do when you get there? You become Andris Lowama, and you can litigate on a few things around Parliament and get attention.
But my problem with this, you know, and I understand and I agree with proportional representation, and that was a deal from 1994, and it's important. But is Patricia de Lille going to sit on the portfolio committee on home affairs, helping to craft legislation and doing oversight when, you know, she's a one-man band? I doubt it.
Can I ask you guys to talk about the smaller parties, or I don't know what they want to be called, the startup parties? So they had a big press conference this afternoon on the stage, led by Mzwanele Manyi from ATM, who are, by the way, standing on 46,000 votes. So his party, or the party that he's part of, because he's not the leader, let's be clear, will get to Parliament. He was standing there on stage making a big song and dance about how unfair the IEC has been to the small parties. They're talking about court cases. They're talking about grants that small parties need to grow themselves. Is this going to throw a spanner into the works of the results of the election? Is this going to lead to some big case that will delay the results, Ralph?
Well, reforming the electoral system and the funding and all that, this is not the right platform. Here it's about counting votes and the bigger issues about reforms and all. They can deal with that elsewhere. But when it comes to allegations of misconduct, impropriety around that, we have seen it before. The reports are saying that it seems to be quite higher this year, but also we need to know, we naturally have more awareness, social media and so forth this year, being very aggressive in reports and so forth. I think that the IEC should establish facts on anything, and the IEC should not allow for a vacuum where rumor will begin to swell. They should establish fact when it comes to any issue relating to impropriety, and if there are any reforms that need to be done further, they should be done. I don't think that there is a serious concern now regarding the broader integrity of this election. And Adrian, show me any small political party that has not questioned the processes before. They always do. It is always their standard retort when it comes to poor performance in the election. They always point to those things.
There was a joke on the floor earlier today that Mani is no longer able to capture government departments. Now he's capturing the smaller parties. I won't reveal my source. Peter de Tour, what happens tomorrow morning when South Africa wakes up? What will we see on the board, and what does tomorrow look like?
Well, we're going to firm up the results. I think earlier today, News 24, courtesy of our analyst Davy Scholes, have made our big projections. We expect the ANC to end somewhere around 57, the DA lower than 22, and it's going to be interesting to see if the EFF finishes at 10%. Then we're going to start talking about the effects of the election, what happened and why it happened. We're still waiting for Gauteng.
Yes, that's a big outstanding result.
As far as we understand, it's on the ANC is on 50.0 at the moment, which is disappointing for the DA. They've dropped at least 4 percentage points, so they're doing pretty badly, I think, in what they expected. And we're also waiting for KwaZulu-Natal. So still lots of stuff that we have to finalize that we can look out for. But I think the larger picture has started to emerge, and I think it's pretty firm at the moment, Adrian.
Just to be clear, we have today projected a number of results. This was a historic day in the history of News 24. We had Davy Scholes as an election analyst who built this model, mathematical model, that basically looks at turnout, looks at representation, and then had this feed of data coming into his spreadsheets, his magical spreadsheets, and making projections about the results. We called all the provinces, we called national quite early today. Also a historical day for the media. The ones outstanding, as you mentioned, Peter, KZN, which Davy says will end on 54% for the ANC. He does think the ANC will be able to govern on their own in KZN, although they will have suffered around 10% loss from 2014, maybe due to the Zuma factor. And then lastly Gauteng, which will be a humdinger. So Ralph, do you agree those are the two big outstanding stories for tomorrow?
I fully agree. Gauteng is on a knife's edge, and of course you look at the challenges that the ANC confronted in Gauteng. You look also at the investment that other parties have made in campaigning in Gauteng. Certainly it is going to be highly contested. If the ANC wins Gauteng, it looks like they might, it will be by a very thin majority. And I think that from now on, the next election, they continue on the same path, Gauteng is gone. And it's not even guaranteed now.
But if the ANC keeps Gauteng, ends up at 57%, I think they'll be pretty happy, given where they've come from.
Of course.
President Ramaphosa will come here with a smile tomorrow when he comes to address us at the National Election Centre. Of course, if the ANC does not win Gauteng, it's back to coalition talks. It's back to 2016, when we had those no party going over 50% in Tshwane and Joburg, and then the ANC can decide to partner with the EFF, the DA, or any of the small parties, even the Freedom Front Plus, which will give us lots more to talk about. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks, gentlemen. News 24 will be back with you tomorrow morning early from the Results Centre. Still lots to come in. We need to finalise that elections results board, and as Peter and Ralph has confirmed, Gauteng is on a nice edge. I hope you enjoyed the day with us. Please send us your feedback, as always, on Twitter at News24, #SA Elections 2019. Signing off from Pretoria.